So I was just watching Fox News, as I often do, to see different perspectives on the issues, and of course they're talking about the Trump uh, trial, and they had that idiot JohnATHON TurLEY on there, and I don't know why they put him on. I don't know why George Washington Law School lets that guy be on their faculty. Because he's just he's like all these damn Republicans and all these people on Fox News and all these people with an agenda who lie constantly. Now, they don't have to be big lies. They're little lies, but they're important lies. And when you are a lawyer and you're a law professor and you get on national television and you lie about what the law is, you think those minions out there in the street understand the fine points of the statutes? Of course they don't. It's not their job. And you, JohnATHON TurLEY, know damn good and well that those people don't know the fine points of the law. They want to hear that Trump did nothing wrong, and so you feed it to them. And in the course of doing it, you're lying. You're lying about what the statutes say. So fortunately, this time they had Andrew McCarthy on there. Andrew McCarthy is a former prosecutor. He's a conservative. He's on Fox News. He almost always presents things favorable to Trump and or any prominent Republican. But he's not a liar like JohnATHON TurLEY. And so McCarthy gets on there and he says, well, first of all, so JohnATHON TurLEY gets on there and he's talking about the two acts that I've referenced previously, and I've read them both. One is the Presidential Records Act, and the other is the Espionage Act. Trump is accused of violating the Espionage Act. He's not accused of violating the Presidential Records Act, but certain people on Fox News, almost all of whom would give some credit to Fox News, are contradicted by someone else they have on. But they feed this crap. They push this stuff out there. And one of the things they're saying, and I've commented on it before, so please forgive me for being redundant, is that the Professional Records Act allows the president to keep these records. He's not required to turn them over to the archives, and if the archives do want them back, there is a civil remedy that they can pursue, and that's where they should be doing, and not bringing a criminal charge, because it's not a criminal offense to not give documents to the National Archives. Well, under some circumstances, it is a criminal offense not to turn them over to the National Archives. Not because of the Presidential Records Act, but because of the Espionage Act. So TurLEY gets over and he says, the Records Act allows the president to keep certain documents, and it's not clear whether or not Trump, had the right to keep these documents under the Presidential Records Act. Now, I know what the Records Act says because I've read it. JohnATHON TurLEY knows what it says. He's lying about it. So Andrew McCarthy gets on there and he says, well, I have to disagree with JohnATHON TurLEY. And he says, in particular, and he talked about the two things. He talked about them, but I'm going to talk about them separately. So he talked about the Presidential Records Act. And he said, the Presidential Records Act allows the president to keep certain records of his own that are personal in nature and have nothing to do with national security. But he said, the documents that we're talking about in this case are not even covered by the Presidential Records Act, because the documents in this case were not created by the president. They're not his personal properties. They have nothing to do with mementos or personal things. These are things that were created by people within the Defense Department. And within the Defense Department, they were national records. They're not Trump's personal records. They're national records. And they're defense records. And you're not entitled to maintain defense records created by the Defense Department in your own private home. It doesn't matter who you are. Those are the properties of the United States government. They're not the property of the president. The Presidential Records Act does not authorize the president or anybody else to have those documents that are created for and by the American government, not the president, for national security purposes. There's a good reason for that. So, under the Presidential Records Act, he had no right to those documents. And now we go back to the Espionage Act. So that's the Presidential Records Act. Under the Espionage Act, TurLEY was saying, well, the Espionage Act requires an intent to harm the national security. Well, it doesn't. It does in certain parts, but not the one under which he's being accused. So Andrew McCarthy points out, under the statute which he is being accused of the National Espionage Act, there's a provision, as we just discussed, where no government official is allowed to maintain in his private possession documents that affect the national security that are prepared by other members of the government. And when somebody improperly takes those home, and then the proper agency who has the authority to maintain those records, in this case, the archives, requests them, and you refuse to turn them over, so you deliberately hold on to national defense documents which you are not allowed to have in your personal possession, and you deliberately keep them there, that's the criminal offense. JohnATHON TurLEY. So I have a new hero. It's Andrew McCarthy, because he told the truth even though he probably didn't want to do it. He knew that the Fox audience out there doesn't want to hear it. JohnATHON TurLEY lied again to that audience, told them something that wasn't true, told them that there was a requirement in the Espionage Act that doesn't exist, told them that there was authority under the Presidential Records Act that doesn't exist. And McCarthy punctured his balloon on both of those issues, and I happen to know that he's right because I've read those statutes. But it was so galling to hear that damn JohnATHON TurLEY once again just lying through his sniveling teeth, and it was so refreshing to see an actual real lawyer with integrity tell the truth even though knew his audience didn't want to hear it. So thank you, Andrew McCarthy, for what you've done. Finally, a McCarthy who was worth something. And the rest, as I told you before, I think they're Italians. This guy's obviously an Irishman. You can tell by looking at him that he's Irish, unlike that Speaker of the House, who, if he's not Italian, he's Greek, which is almost as bad. So I don't want to say anything to offend any ethnic group, well, except for the Poles. But other than the Poles, the Italians, and the Greeks, and maybe, well, they don't have a lot of use for the Japanese. Germans are no damn good. Actually, when I stop, I can't think of a single ethnic group that's worth a damn. I started to say the Irish, but then I found myself laughing out loud at that one. I don't know. I mean, how did I get up on this track anyway? I'm a good person. I should be engaging in this kind of ethnicity bashing. Except it's fun. It's almost an American pastime. Au revoir. And go to hell, JohnATHON TurLEY, and good on you, Andrew McCarthy. Proud of you, my man.